So good afternoon, everyone. The topic for the afternoon, the role of the master, guru, which in Pali Buddhism or in Theravada Buddhism is not, I don't think it's quite as comparable as it is to the Indian guru tradition. And again, I don't really know anything. So, but they just from what I understand and from what I heard, hard to find it comparable. There is a certain difference, say like in Thai Buddhism and say the Thai forest tradition. There's a difference between the role of the say the teacher, and that's maybe the better word, say Ajahn and Swamiji said that say the title Ajahn Pasanno is from Acharya and a teacher, and so that's as a teacher or leader or somebody who's given some responsibility of some sort is called an Acharya, an Ajahn. In the time of the Buddha, certainly the Acharya had duties and responsibilities, but it seems that there was less importance put on the person, on the individual, and the importance that the Buddha placed most emphasis on was the role of the Sangha, the community, and of course the elders were given respect and veneration to a certain degree, but it was not. It was always in context with the community and the Sangha, and so that in our texts, our text on the discipline that outlines the how we live, and say the Vinaya texts, how we live, the rules that we live by, and the ordinances that the communities were run by. There is no word for abbot, which is really interesting. The structure was originally set up much more around and it's a consensus model. There is an exception. In exceptional circumstances, you can take a vote on something, and that's considered really like as a last-ditch case, an unsatisfactory way of resolving, making decisions and getting things done. The Buddha put a lot of emphasis on consensus and being willing to talk, to listen, to pay attention to and to agree. So the harmony of the Sangha, the harmony of the community was of huge importance in the Buddha placed a big importance on that. So that sense of the strength of the community functioning together, and then quite naturally, as there's and the Buddha also, you pay attention to the voices of the elders and their experience. But that should be the case in any human society. But of course, but the Buddha did very much emphasize that the elders and the experience are to be listened to, and to be given some deference and care. It's also interesting that, say, when the Buddha was passing away, and he had announced his passing away, and it's obvious his life force is fading, and Ananda, the faithful attendant, is like the you're going to pass away. Who do we appoint as the leader in your place? And the Buddha said, even when I was alive, I was not your leader. It is the Dhamma Vinaya that is your guide. So the teachings, the truth, and the discipline, the training, is what you should take as your leader, and so that's a very interesting statement. So that the early centuries of say Pali Buddhism were very much based around the community and very decentralized. Without some structures of administration and whatnot, and certainly not, say, like later traditions and contemporary traditions, start establishing say like Sangha-raja, that's the kind of the supreme patriarch of the communities, and that was kind of anathema to the time of the Buddha, because what is important, because leadership will arise out of the commitment to and fidelity to the teaching and the training. That's quite natural. It's just what will. So that allowing it to be organic, and so that you pay the attention to that training and keeping the discipline and the structures, and of course that has maintained itself up until today, and so that it's not that the majority of monks in Theravada countries actually keep the rules, but they're there if somebody actually paid attention. But it is a flavor of the forest traditions which are much more focused on meditation and training, that they come back to the old structures of the Vinaya, the Vinaya, and use that to guide the basis. So Ajahn Chah put a really large emphasis on the learning of the rules, but also learning the spirit of the rules, because keeping rules doesn't make for good spiritual discipline, really. But having structures that you can that create a coherent community are really, really important, and you can you have an agreement so that on taking, say, ordination, you make a voluntary commitment to the standards of practice and training, and yeah, it does create a coherent community, and out of that community will arise some leadership and teachers, because when you've got a large community or a large group of human beings, if they're committed to a certain training, you don't all have to be leaders. You can't mandate it just because somebody has been around for a long time. So that there's a natural evolution of who starts taking responsibility for teaching and leadership, but it's still, you always want to be keeping the coherency of the community, of the group. And then you start realize, well, the master guru is Dhamma Vinaya. It is this teaching and the training it provides the guidance, and relying on that, that fidelity to truth, and a willingness to work in consensus, because as everybody knows, when you have a fidelity to truth, but everybody's got their own truth, and things get complicated. But if you're willing to actually live together, work together, then there's a certain clarity starts to form quite naturally. It's very interesting in the Vinaya texts, because there are duties. The Buddha laid out. It's an interesting thing. You have the suttas, which are the teachings, and those are, wonderfully inspiring discourses and teachings on truth, on practice, on perspectives of reality, and then the accounts of people listening to the teachings and getting enlightened and all of that. Then you've got the Vinaya, which you've got all the misbehaving monks and nuns that the Buddha is having to, no, don't do that again. No, you can't do that. No, it's not for the arising of faith in the faithless, or the maintaining of faith in those who do have faith. Stop that. But it's very human, so that you get this balance again of Dhamma Vinaya, but the relationship between or the duties of the teachers to the students is laid out, and there's mutual responsibilities, mutual duties, so that it's the duty of the junior to look after the look after the robes, look after the dwelling place, take care of the needs of the teacher, pay attention, and then but the acharya, the Ajahn, has duties as well to look after their needs, to look after the needs of the student, to pay attention, look after them when they're sick, make sure they've got enough food, make sure they're getting enough of requisites. Are they getting enough robes? Are they getting enough? Are they? So, because as the Buddha said, you come into this life and you do not have a mother and father. You come into this life, you do not have your family with you. You have, this is, it is your duties to look after each other, and so that the duty of the acharya is to make sure that the students do have the fundamentals of the life, and that they are getting teaching, that they're getting training, they're getting guidance in how to live their spiritual life. But there's also, there's actually, again, in terms of duties and responsibilities for the students, there's procedures and guidance on how to, if the teacher is getting out of line in some way, the Buddha lays it out what to do. Again, this is a human story, and if the teachers are losing the plot or getting caught in something that's worldly, it's up to the students. And if it is, and it's actually spelled out, if there's not anyone amongst the group of students who feels comfortable to approach the teacher, then you have to go to another respected elder to be your spokesman to speak to the teacher. So that it's really, again, very beautiful. I find and the teacher has the responsibility to if he's been admonished by to listen. So there is a checks and balances of the human, so that the master, the guru, is not above anything. Also, whether you're a newly ordained monk, or you're ordained for a not so long a time, as opposed to somebody ordained for a very long time, you have this. There are no exceptions to the rules. Just because, say, I've been ordained for 50 years and I'm seen as a teacher and a master, it doesn't mean I can eat in the evening or listen, go do things that are outside the rules of discipline. The rules of the same rules of discipline apply to me as it does to everybody else. And so there's a level playing field in the expectation of the keeping of the rules of training. So that's to me that's to me it's very inspiring. Or say, like, my robes are not any different. I don't get extra stripes on my robes because I've got a whole lot of years, or I've got a position of leadership. Same robes. I can't have any more robes than the others. So it's there is a kind of a level playing field, an expectation of commitment to this Dhamma, this Vinaya, and then it's also, those are known by the lay community, and everything is out in the open. And similarly, the Buddha put procedures in place of how the relationship between the lay communities and the monastic. There's mutual responsibilities, mutual duties, in looking after each other as communities. So I think that's a sort of interesting perspective of say for Theravada Buddhism, and that role of the master, the guru, and as a master and guru, or an acharya or an ajahn, your only authority is your commitment to Dhamma Vinaya. That's your only authority. If you're not don't have a strong fidelity to the training, if you don't have a clear commitment to the teachings and a relationship to truth, then the authority just isn't there, and it's quite natural. So that there is because you don't have, say, any outside structures really supporting some authority, then and one wants to have an impact, then the commitment is to giving oneself to the training, giving oneself to the Dhamma, giving oneself to truth, and that's where the authority comes. It's also sort of being able to take on. I mean, part of taking on leadership or taking on teaching. Again, most of the teaching is really done through example, and relying on compassion. It's like there's one of the great forest masters in Thailand was asked one time, what is the nature of the mind of an enlightened master? And his response is immediately, only compassion. Ajahn Mahabua gave that answer, and Ajahn Mahabua is known as a really ferocious, and he pushes students, but it's when it comes down to it, it's always out of compassion and personality. And he used to get teased by his teacher of having no subtlety. He said, "You're just like you're just like a boxer in the ring. There's no you just get up there and start throwing punches. There's no subtlety there." And so you're approaching, but that's his personality, and so but his kind of realization, his own compassion, was kind of boundless. He, for all of his, again, the sense of sometimes the perception of say of a Theravada Buddhism or it's like Hinayana Buddhism, the small school, the small vehicle, is that it's selfish, and I just did not see that in the monasteries of where any training is taking place. Just the tremendous giving. Ajahn Chah was somebody who, say, as a master or a guru, was revered, but he always had time for people, and I think quite rightly that his just his complete selflessness, and I don't think his body could keep up to his selflessness, and so he was a fairly young age. I mean, especially for when I first met him, he was in his early 50s, and of course I was in early 20s, so he just seemed really old. But by the time he was 63, he was his physical health had collapsed, and his mental capacities also compromised. Series of health things that left him unable to wasn't able to walk, to talk, and he was very bright, but I think he really needed a rest. But that's at quite a young age. But that sense of compassion, so he was always, that sense of selflessness. And I think that's what also draws, in terms of, say, the respect or authority that a teacher receives. I think it is selflessness is the kind of a critical factor. What's going to draw that, so that and again, commitment and giving oneself to the truth and the training, Dhamma and the Vinaya. And of course, that's something that we all can be doing. And I think it's important that they say the one thing that a good teacher can do is provide the example of when one lives by Dhamma Vinaya, then really good things happen. And to inspire or encourage people to be able to make that commitment and give oneself to these teachings and this truth and this training, because it's only for one's benefit. Ajahn Chah once said, when somebody asked him, what does it mean to be a teacher, or to be an Ajahn? And he said, well, being an Ajahn it's like being a car mechanic. See, you fix broken vehicles. So that's this is what you do. Is the human beings come in with the various things that are broken, that you give them the opportunity to fix, or give them the tools to fix themselves with. So it's another thing that Ajahn Chah sort of said when one of the duties of the Ajahn is to be the it's like to be the trash pit, because what you do is you're willing to take all of people's projections, their likes, their dislikes, their desires, their attachments, and let them be thrown in, and not to reject anything. And you don't reject people in any way. You don't reject other human beings. Of course, Ajahn Chah could be quite a fierce teacher as well. But I think it's just sort of out of compassion. And a good teacher has different ways of encouraging students. Sometimes you inspire them, sometimes you challenge them to rise up to something better and more noble. Sometimes you have to admonish people, but I think always to be doing it with compassion. It's it's an important foundation. And I'm thinking of one time, one of our monks a Western monk was on alms round, and he was, and you're actually supposed to be quiet on alms round when you go on alms round. Certainly, when you're in the village, you're really supposed to be very quiet. As you're going to alms round and coming back from alms round, the encouragement is to not be talking, not to be. That's a time for it's a duty as a monastic, as a monk, and being as composed and restrained as possible, so that you're bringing in, because one of the things that one is doing as a monastic is bringing. It's not that you're just going in to get some food. You're bringing the sight of a religious seeker into the world, and you want that sight of the samana, sight of the religious seeker, to be peaceful, composed. So Ajahn Chah would always tell his students, when you're going, don't walk in a group, don't engage in gossip and conversation. The monk was walking with another monk, talking, and then got into a bit of a altercation, verbal altercation, disagreement. He felt that this other monk was being just negative, and he took exception to that, got upset, and then stopped walking with that monk, and then went through the alms round, and then separated himself and walked back. But the whole time he was in his mind grumbling and complaining about this monk. And he didn't like him, didn't like what happened. He walked into the monastery, and his kind of head was down, and then he heard Ajahn. It was Ajahn Chah was at the entry part of the monastery, and Ajahn Chah didn't know English. He knew a few words, and he greeted this monk, sort of, "Good morning, how are you?" And of course, the mood of aversion and ill will completely dissipated. He just sort of broke into a smile. And seeing Ajahn Chah, and then Ajahn Chah gave him a very kindly look, and he that mood just completely dissipated. And so then he spent the day doing this and that, but he was really brightened by just Ajahn Chah's presence and his warmth. And then he, as one of the things that we would do with Ajahn Chah, his dwelling place was, say, an open space, especially down below. Upstairs is where he was, his sleeping place and his room. Down below was like an open space with a chair, and he would receive people. And oftentimes it'd be receiving people through the whole day and well into the night. And you just go and listen to him teaching and receiving people. So the monk went, and Ajahn Chah was teaching and receiving people. And it was just, these are usually very, very warm, very inspiring occasions. And he was very uplifted, again, by Ajahn Chah's presence as the teacher. And then he asked if he could just massage Ajahn Chah's feet. So then, which is, always a nice thing to do for your teacher. So Ajahn Chah was certainly, so they're sitting there. And then the bell rang for evening puja, evening chanting. And the monk was still sitting there, and Ajahn Chah said, "Oh, you can stay." And all the rest of the monks, he chased everybody else off to go to chanting and meditation. And as the way the monk describes it, so he's sitting there massaging Ajahn Chah's feet, and then the chanting starts up, and it's one of these evenings in the monastery where the forest is quiet, and then the sound of the chanting is there, and it's just sort of almost heavenly, ethereal, and he's just gets really absorbed into the beauty of that. And it's just the inspiration, and then all of a sudden he's flat on his back because he's been kicked in the chest. Ajahn Chah kicked him in the chest and sort of put him right on his back. and I said, you have spent the whole day following your moods. You go out on alms round, you're supposed to be mindful and composed, and you get caught in getting caught and swept up in aversion. It's just like an upset following your moods. Somebody says, "Good morning," and then you get into a good mood. And you come here and you sit here and you're not mindful. You get lost in the sound of the chanting. You're not on track with your practice. You're losing. So it was really, the compassion of the teacher to be willing to point that out. And then the monk who said, he says, it's one of the most important kicks in the chest that he's ever had in his life. but it's a good teacher is willing to and that's say on the extreme end of how you help your students, but it's also say Ajahn Chah was, especially we say honoring Ajahn Chah here, is having a sense of the his compassion and what a teacher, say the role of the master, the guru. And Ajahn Chah was, I think that's a signature flavor of his monasteries is not so much, to me it's one of the, as a master, he was bedridden and ill for sort of the last 9 or 10 years of his life. He passed away 1992 or something. And his communities of monasteries have only increased since his passing. So that, typically in monasteries, most monasteries in Thailand, when the teacher dies, the students sort of disappear or dissipate. That's not, maybe not immediately, but over time, fairly quickly or slow. But it's rare because everything's been focused on the master, on the guru, on the teacher. And Ajahn Chah always put the emphasis on the Sangha, on the community. And of course he would intervene from time to time, but it would be, he would defer to the Sangha, or he would make sure that the Sangha was involved in whatever decisions or guidance was there, so that there was a sense of involvement and taking responsibility. So that I think that's a flavor that echoes the Buddha's model, to me anyway. And of course I'm biased, but it I think the Buddha had such tremendous insight into human nature that I think it's really important to be paying close attention to the models and guidance and examples that he laid down and gave to us. And over 2,500 years, to me, they're more than valuable in a modern world. I mean, finding that, say, like our monasteries have gone to quite a few different countries, and they are contributing to the say an example of how to live a spiritual life, even in a modern world, in a completely different culture, a Western culture. I've been in America now for, almost 26 years or something. 26 years, 27 years, something. And there's just increasing. It's slow, which is good. There's just but a steady kind of increase of interest in the presence of a monastery, and I think that's the role of say say, a master or guru is to try to lay foundations for communities of human beings to provide a legacy for their fellow human beings. And again, that's the legacy that is of most value and use is just this fundamental truths that the Buddha pointed to, and the training that he laid out that we can all engage in and we can all participate in. So those are some reflections that come up for me on the role of master and guru.